Hello there and welcome to the Star Wars Showcase YouTube channel. We have a bit of a different video up today as it is September 2023 and we are doing a top 10 retrospective of our Black Series releases. That is to say, I'm going to pick my top 10 releases from the line thus far, not including any custom or kit bashed projects. So let's take a look. So up first at number 10 is our Black Series Migs Mayfeld, and I picked Migs here for a couple of reasons. The first one being that he is just a fantastic figure release. We got a brand new sculpt here, we got a ton of great accessories. He's coming with 4 removable blasters with working holsters, as well as that 5th blaster fitting on kind of that hinged backpack accessory. And seeing all of this detail, seeing, really solid articulation, a great likeness to Bill Burr, I think this is definitely one of the best figures that we've gotten in the line thus far, especially when you consider the fact that Migs is only on screen in this particular outfit for one episode of The Mandalorian, and I think the popularity of that show has drawn a lot more attention to this line, and given us the opportunity to explore some of these really cool and diverse bounty hunter characters that really open up the Star Wars galaxy beyond just, the Rebels and the Empire. So I think Migs here is a huge advancement in terms of a mainline Black Series figure release, especially when you consider the fact that for the majority of these parts here, there's not a lot of reuse here, which is often Hasbro's MO when they're producing new figures. So seeing all of the love and attention and detail go into just one release of one kind of niche character is definitely a big win in my book. Okay, coming in at number 9 is our Island Journey Rey release from The Last Jedi here. And I picked this figure here because I think it represented at the time a huge advancement in our photoreal appearances for our new Black Series releases here. As compared to the 2015 Force Awakens Rey, the difference here is night and day, as that new Hasbro photo print technology is just giving us such a better likeness to characters that has continued on for almost all of our new releases these days. So for this particular figure, whether or not you enjoy The Last Jedi, I think was a huge step for the Black Series line here. And for me personally, I think this is my favorite appearance of the character, as we're starting to get more of that kind of Empire Strikes Back gray fatigue sort of look, some moral ambiguity, and we're getting, of course, that great likeness to Daisy Ridley, but also Rey's nice blaster accessory, as well as the iconic Star Wars lightsaber there. So this particular figure, as a callout, also comes with a really nice soft goods cloak, which I actually don't have pictured here because I'm using it on a separate Ahsoka figure. So that additional soft goods that came with this figure was really nice and diverse, kind of a poncho with a hood that just works well with any other Jedi or kind of underworld. A whole lot of other characters were able to make advantage of that particular accessory, which in my book just further elevates this figure. Looking at 2023 standards, this figure is a couple of years old and that articulation doesn't hold up as well. There have certainly been more advancements made there, but for all that this figure I think did at the time, that's why I'm slotting it in at spot number 9. Okay, coming in next at number 8 is going to be our Placoon, or more generally, just our Jedi figures here. When the Black Series originally released Obi-Wan and Anakin back in the Orange line in like that 2013 to 2015 era, those figures certainly saw their age really fast. And as the Black Series kind of hit its stride in the Red line, we saw some major improvements made with the release of figures like Placoon and Mace Windu. With this base body here, which I think is really strong, we have a lot of potential for making a lot of different Jedi here. I think, Plo Koon, as I modeled there, has a lot of great detail, but even someone like Kit Fisto here has this really fantastic, very unique head sculpt that's shining through here. They've all got good articulation, they've got those butterfly joints, and I think that's extending out to many of our other more human Jedi as well. Looking at these different Obi-Wan releases, it's a very basic body sculpt that they put together that can be very easily replicated to give us a lot of great characters. And I think that's oftentimes what Hasbro is looking to do with many of its characters, is create that very solid foundation that can then be easily replicated. But then when you add things like soft goods, new head sculpts, we're just getting more and more characters, more bang for your buck off a very simple sculpt. I think right alongside that as well, we've seen major improvements in terms of the lightsabers that many of these Jedi are coming with. As the blades are now much thicker, I think there's a lot less chance that things are breaking from falls. That's not to say that they're invincible. There certainly can be instances where they do snap, but I think we see them as a lot more substantive, a lot more bulk there, especially when you're comparing them to some of the flimsier, skinnier releases that we saw when these lightsabers were first coming out at the beginning of the line. So coming up next is our Black Series Captain Rex, as I think Rex here provided us the Clone Trooper base body template that continues to be the best in terms of articulation and detail, even more so than some of the new Clone Trooper figures that have been released since 2020 here. And my particular Rex release was the HasCon exclusive, so he does not come with that photoreal printing technology, but the later Redline release did come with it. But what's really shining through on Rex as well as Commander Bly is just some fantastic articulation in these arms and these elbows. We see a lot more movement in that elbow that's enabling characters to actually aim down the sights of their weapons here, and everything is just very sturdy. It's able to hold those poses. We have less of the rubbery pieces that are being used with our new clone troopers, and we also had our clone pilot here who had much of that same articulation and sculpt usage here. I'm a little bit sad that we've moved away from this, because I'm not usually a fan of these double-jointed elbows, but I thought it was executed very well for these clone troopers. I thought we really hit our stride with this before then transitioning to a new sculpt that, while it has many strengths, I think is not shining through as much as this particular one. So seeing it on these three clone trooper figures, I think was fantastic, and would love to see a little bit more use of this base sculpt. All right, coming in at number 6 here is Darth Malik, and this might be a little bit of recency bias showing through, but I absolutely love this figure and love what it represents. As for many of our Black Series releases, as we've seen shown on this list, we're going to get those molds that are being made that can be replicated, that can be used, that can be slightly altered. But for Malik here, we are seeing parts that can only be used for him. This removable jaw piece, all of this unique custom armor, this soft goods over the shoulder, all paired together with many of our improvements for those single jointed pinless limbs. I think Malik here is really a big success for the Star Wars Black Series line, and the scale at which he's presented, which is just larger than, your normal figure. He kind of towers over things. He comes with this unique custom lightsaber. I'm gushing a little bit, but I really think this is a fantastic figure for a very niche character, one who's been out for almost 20 years as part of that original KOTOR game. Seeing him come out alongside some of our other characters like Bastila Shan as of late, I think is very promising for fans of the line, and spells out the potential for there to be more releases for more of these kind of niche or fan favorite characters. Coming in at number 5 on the list is our Season 7 appearance of Maul from the Clone Wars. And this is a fantastic figure. I've done a review of this one separately, and I think a lot of different improvements came together to really make this iconic appearance come to life here. We have a fantastic work on that face sculpt there, kind of getting the smiling, scowling grin. The lightsaber is absolutely fantastic, double-bladed, but each side of the saber itself is unique. We've got those robotic legs for Maul, and we've got really great articulation to squeeze him into more of those kind of acrobat poses for when he's dueling with Ahsoka on Mandalore. So that, with those rubber shoulder pads, really means that we're able to get a lot of different posability for this character here, which is great for Maul as he's doing all kinds of flips and jumps. I think a lot of what makes his character so great is Maul is kind of in that rule of cool club with Vader and Boba Fett, where all of his appearances are pretty iconic and well received, but seeing things translated through this figure, to see such great detail done on that saber, to have really solid articulation, I just think it's a really great way to commemorate Season 7 of the Clone Wars, which in many ways is the end of a story there. So great to see that all come together for this release. At number 4, we're going to keep the dark side user ball rolling here with Count Dooku and his Attack of the Clones appearance. And I think Dooku released at one of the heights of the red line, as I think this is such a fantastic figure. You've got a great likeness to Christopher Lee. You've got his iconic curved lightsaber blade here. You've got soft goods that works really well. Sometimes soft good robes sit a little bit odd, and I think this cape doesn't really inhibit articulation, but still kind of has that classy, elegant look here. And speaking of that articulation, I think the way in which our joints are moving here really allows Dooku to get some of those, kind of fencers poses that he uses as a lightsaber user. And so seeing that translated there alongside, these pinless joints, I think just makes for an all-around really great release. The only criticism I have for this figure is it would have been awesome to see some kind of, force lightning hand effect like we saw with Emperor Palpatine, but that's more of a minor nitpick, especially considering this is a mainline release. So with consideration to that, I think, butterfly joints, fantastic likeness, great lightsaber, all of this is coming together to make Dooku, I think, a must-have for Black Series collectors. All right, coming in at number 3, we have reached the podium here, but it is our Black Series Imperial Stormtrooper release. And this was tough for me, determining the top 3, as I absolutely love these next couple of figures. But this Stormtrooper for me was such a massive improvement over our initial release that came in the orange line, which suffered from, kind of this gummy texture to the legs. The articulation didn't really hold. The legs would kind of bow on the figure over time. And I think what we're seeing here with this Stormtrooper is, again, that very replicable sculpt that really shines through. Lots of strengths here. This is also featuring our Stormtrooper helmets appear to have a molded head underneath there. The helmet is not removable, but it's done up in such a way that you could imagine a figure actually wearing this helmet, which we're starting to see with some of our other figures like that George Lucas and Stormtrooper disguise. I think because of the strengths of this figure, we can see so many other releases used on this. This Jet Hop Patrol Trooper, who just has the pauldron and backpack come with him, is just another example of once you add a couple of accessories to a strong figure, you're just building out your Stormtrooper army there. And so really great articulation there with the butterfly joints, as well as just a solid, sturdy sculpt here. Make this one of my favorites. All right, coming in at number 2, we have Argosorian Guard, one of our original, quote-unquote deluxe releases in the red line. And when this guy first came out, I remember a lot of people saying, oh, why is this deluxe? Why does this cost more? But I think when you really take the figure and put it under a microscope, you see a little bit more of that reasoning come through. Is this guy comes with 3 different weapons. I only have 2 of the axes pictured here. He has an additional staff. But he also has a combination of soft goods, a ton of unique detailing. You can see his weapons and armor kind of have that weathering effect to them. And he has this, kind of fuzzy skirt piece that he's wearing. The head and the mouth are articulated to give him kind of this roaring sort of look. And then we're also getting just really solid articulation there in terms of his legs able to move. They're double jointed there. This figure for me, I think represented what actually could be considered deluxe there, is we're getting, a background character who's getting a ton of attention to detail. It's not like they slapped some, incredible Hulk legs because they're both green on there. This guy was brand new from top to bottom there, and I think really set the standard for what should be considered deluxe for this line. All right, and coming in at number 1 for me is a cheeky two-way tie for some of our Rebel Army builders, as this is our Hoth Rebel Soldier and our recently released Endor Commando. I'm a big fan of the Rebel Alliance, that whole guerrilla aesthetic, and these troop builders with these removable face plates are just totally awesome in my book. As someone who customizes and makes different action figures, who's looking to build out dioramas and scenes with more diversity, with different faces included there, having the ability to take these troopers and have a couple of different elements that are unique, additional scarves, adding a jacket, removing a bandolier, something like that, I think just really expands out the line there, really adds depth to things. And these troopers as well are seeing many of our other improvements with those butterfly joints. They're coming with multiple weapons. These guys, for me, are our personal favorites and ones that I wanted for years and years as an early collector of the line. And as we see these releases come out and as we see them received well, the Endor Deluxe, status, I think, being one thing that we could argue a bit on. But this gives me a lot of hope that we're going to see other things like, Rebel Pathfinders from Rogue One, and really just continue to have more and more of this solid technology come together to give us more of these Rebel troop builders. That, for me, is the reason they come in at number 1, is, again, you're able to build out those scenes. You can add some different 3D printed heads and really build out your Rebel troops to match those more faceless Imperials. So that is my top 10 list here for our Black Series releases as of September 2023. Looking at the end of the year, I think there's a number of other figures that are coming. Black Chrysanthemum, there's Darth Malgus, all kinds of other figures that I am super excited to get in hand that could easily upset this list here. So I think I will look on an ongoing basis to refresh this as we have some of these new awesome figures come in. But let me know down in the comments below if you agree with this list, what your top 10 looks like, and if you think there's anything that I was able to represent well, or you feel that, you might contest a little bit. So let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out some of our other content up on the channel. We have other videos for Black Series reviews, as well as tips and tricks for customizing action figures of your own. So check that all out.